Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about EV charging cables. We're looking at a 2017 Volkswagen e-Golf. When I first got it, it had an EPA range of 125 miles, which was perfectly fine for my needs. There were two ways of charging this vehicle. You could use the included charging cable and plug it into a 120 outlet, or you could find a level 2 charger outside and plug into that. The difference being that with the 120 cable, it took a long time to charge the vehicle, whereas I could fully charge from empty to full in about 4 hours with level 2. In 2025, I purchased this used 2023 Chevy Bolt EUV LT. It has twice the range of the Volkswagen, yet comes with a similar type home charger that you can plug into a 120 outlet. This is a charging cable that came with the e-Golf. It's capable of pushing 10 amps from a 120 receptacle to charge the vehicle, giving it a couple of miles per hour, which is fine as long as you weren't driving over 50 miles round trip every day, because being that most of the time the vehicle is just sitting, if it was plugged in, then you'd build up enough mileage range into the vehicle that you wouldn't run out, and then on the weekends you could top it off by just charging all day Saturday or Sunday. So this actually worked for a lot of people. With the Chevy having twice the range and twice the battery capacity, Chevy did things a little bit differently. They still provided you with the same connector, but at the adapter point, instead of just having a 120 plug, they also gave you the option to have a 240 plug. And this 120 plug, which plugs into the bottom of their adapter, is capable of doing 12 amps instead of the 10 amps that the Volkswagen was capable of handling. If you plug in a 240 plug, now you up to 30 amps that you're able to send into your vehicle for much faster charging. And to make this even more versatile, they actually allow you to hang this on a wall. So you could basically make this a permanent adapter in your garage as opposed to a portable one. I actually prefer having this in the back of the car. So in case I'm somewhere where a charger is not readily available, I can tap into maybe a washer connector or somebody's 120 outlet and charge my vehicle enough to get me to a regular full-size charger. For those of you looking for another option, there are dedicated home chargers like this one. This Grizzle will actually supply 40 amps to a vehicle, and it can either be permanently mounted or, as I like to call it, transportable, which means that most of the time it sits on that wall, but if you decide to move to a new location or to go on vacation, you can actually disengage it from the back wall, and as long as you have a 240 plug, you're able to charge your car somewhere else. And that is the reason why I decided not to hardwire this into a circuit, but to use a plug. Do note that both these cables are level 1, and therefore they're strictly AC cables, regardless of whether they're running at 120 voltage or 240. Your vehicle will take that AC voltage and convert it to DC, which it uses to charge the battery pack. The only way to charge your vehicle faster is to use the DC connectors on your vehicle, and this directly charges the DC battery, but these are only available outside your home. Depending on your vehicle, DC charging can give you up to 80% charge in as little as 10 to 15 minutes. In the case of the Bolt, it's closer to 80 minutes. Whether considering buying a new or used EV, one of the things you have to give thought to is, how are you going to charge that vehicle? Will it be with the included charging cable? Will you have to buy a dedicated box for where you house your vehicle? Or will you rely on street public charging? When I first got my e-Golf, I did have range anxiety, but I ended up never using the plug-in cable. I either took it to work and charged there, usually once a week, or there was free charging at a public library. But because my range was usually under 125 miles per week, charging once at a level 2 was plenty to keep this vehicle in business. When I left the big city for a rural area, there were plenty of free chargers about. And for those times that I needed more range, I would just visit one of those public charging stations more often. I would always try to make it part of a routine. So I was either shopping at the grocery store, shopping at the mall, going to church because there was a charging station nearby there. So seldom did I have to sit there and babysit the car. In the winter, I would visit a charging station that was about a mile away and then just walk home, take care of some business, and then 3 or 4 hours later, just walk back and retrieve my vehicle. Never again really sitting around waiting for the car. When they switched that charging station to pay, I decided it would be actually more advantageous for me to get my own permanent charger. Thus, I pulled a permit, wired 240, and bought this Grizzle box and installed it. And then at winter, I only needed to walk out to the enclosed garage to plug in my vehicle. And actually, this ended up being cheaper and more convenient than using paid public charging. For those of you who have a daily commute of, let's say, less than 50 miles round trip, you may be able to get away by just plugging in your car using the cable that's included. I have a dedicated circuit just for that. It comes right from the circuit breaker. This is rated for 20 amps, even though I'm only going to be using at the max 12. So over time, it'll actually charge my vehicle. I don't need it, but it's there in case I do. And this would be a great option for many people. If you can't afford to get a dedicated receptacle, then you can use a standard receptacle, just making sure that other things aren't plugged into that circuit. For example, in this garage, there are 3 other receptacles that I could plug into to charge my vehicle, but they also power the lights and the garage door openers. So you just have to be mindful that you're not operating a bunch of things on your circuit, because if you're already using 10 to 12 amps with a 15 amp circuit, that doesn't give you a lot of leeway. It goes without saying that if you have a high mileage commute, then perhaps you're better off getting a level 2 charger where you park, or finding public charging stations that are convenient to your location. And don't forget that you can always use all 3 of these. You could plug in your car into a 120 circuit if that's all you have, or you can take advantage of a 240 circuit if you happen to have a dryer that has a plug on it that you can tap into. So you don't always have to go out to a public charger, but if you do, you find one that's in your area and you try going to it at times where it's not as congested, and make sure you have alternative charging areas in case the unit is being utilized or if it's not working that particular day. For a multitude of years, I was just able to get by on public level 2 chargers, never charged at home using this vehicle. Of course, when I finally did install the Grizzle, I now do all my charging at home, unless I'm going beyond the range of the vehicle. The Bolt gives me the advantage of being able to use DC charging, which is much faster than the level 2 charging, but it comes at a cost. But of course, with the 250 mile EPA range, I can drive to most places in my area, do day trips, and don't have to charge until after I get home. The point of all this is, take a look at what your driving habits are like and realize that most of the time, your car is sitting in the garage or in a parking spot doing nothing for many hours of the day. If you're working 8 hours and you take the car to and from work, that leaves almost 16 hours that the car is just not doing anything else besides sitting at work. And those are times your vehicle can be charging. So whether it's a low level charge, a medium level charge, or a high speed DC charge, those are options that are available to you and are not exclusive of each other. I really enjoy the performance of an EV versus an ICE. I also like the fact that these are very low maintenance vehicles. And this vehicle right here, because I bought it used, came in at about $21,500, which is really cheap for this technology. And it still has the original warranty on it, The 2017 still meets its EPA range of 125. Originally, when I first got it new, I could get about 160 out of the vehicle, 165. So while that range has dropped, it's still within the specs for the 125 EPA rated. So no issues with the battery, terrific cars to drive. I really think that for most Americans, if they think about it, an EV might be a really good alternative for them. Did I mention that maintenance is really cheap? All you're changing is the cabin filter, coolant fluids, tires, and windshield wiper blades. And in the event of a power outage, there are ways of utilizing your EV's power battery to help run appliances and lights in your house. If you found this video interesting or useful, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, join the subscription team, and as always, thank you so much for watching.